last night I was able to see the new Toho Godzilla film, Godzilla Minus One. So let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. What did you think about Godzilla Minus One, and what is your history with the Godzilla franchise? As a point of reference for me, I am by no means like a big Godzilla fan. I do not have a deep knowledge of the lore. I've seen the American films. I believe I've seen the original film from 1954, but it's been a very long time. So I went into this one just wanting to see a Japanese Godzilla film on the big screen, and I'd heard really good buzz heading into the movie. And let's get started with the good. And as a total normie Godzilla fan, this was easily the best Godzilla film that I have ever seen. I went in with very few expectations, and from beginning to end, it just kept wowing me and impressing me. And the longer it went on, the better that it got. And afterwards, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, wow, that was just like a great film that was entertaining as a big disaster Godzilla movie, but also deeply emotional on a human level, and had a bunch of really interesting ideas to explore through its themes. Now, if you don't know what this movie is, it is a Toho Godzilla film. It is a Japanese Godzilla film celebrating the 70th anniversary of the release of the original Godzilla. It is not part of the current Warner Brothers MonsterVerse set of films. It is its own standalone Godzilla story set right at the end of World War II over the next few years. The movie spans several years. So the big criticism of the recent American Godzilla films is that they focus too much on the human characters, and you don't particularly care about the human characters. They're played by great actors with paper-thin characterizations. And this movie is all about the characters, but this would be a very interesting, compelling film, even if it wasn't a Godzilla movie. It happens to be a Godzilla movie, but at its core, it's about Japan and the shame the country feels after World War II, as well as the individual shame that this kamikaze pilot that didn't die during the war feels coming out of the war. And you're watching the restoration and how all these different people respond to what happened during World War II and the destruction of their countries. They're trying to rebuild, they're trying to rediscover their identity, and then this new threat emerges. This new threat happens to be Godzilla. But the movie could work if it was a tsunami, if it was just a disaster story, because the characters are strong enough and the ideas it's exploring about the nation are powerful enough that it could carry whatever the element of destruction is. Godzilla happens to be a particularly interesting and fun one, but it doesn't do it at all winking at the camera. It's not poking fun. It's not, as I say, a Taco Bell movie, cinematic fast food that's just like, yeah, two monsters hitting each other. That's awesome. It's not that. It's a movie about real people dealing with the aftermath of a real war put in this fantastical scenario with a underwater dinosaur emerging with a nuclear breath. And it finds a tone where it can do that. And it takes it entirely seriously. It doesn't think it's silly at all. And because of that, it works. And very early on, you feel for these characters. You feel connected to them. You care about them. And you understand what they're working through. I mean, our lead character has PTSD from the war. And he doesn't know how to move forward. And great storytelling is when you have characters that need to go on the journey of the movie. journey of the story of the movie to become the person that they need to be, or if it's a tragedy, to become the worst version of themselves. And that's what this movie is all about, seen through an individual character, but as well as the side characters, as people learn to forgive, as people learn to move on. And as you move into the back 40% of the movie, where they're coming together with their plan to push back, the way that they handle it, it was just so poignant. It was insightful. It has a lot to say about war. It has this perspective of older generations that are hurting from what they've been through, trying to help the next generation move forward, and they want to build a legacy and a future for them that's better than the one that they've lived through. There's just even the specific mechanism that they're trying to use to go after Godzilla. It feels like smart, and it's trying to not just be this brute war technique. And you know, where they go with the lead character and the shame and what he's trying to do and how it ties in with other characters and their mission and everything. It's just this really powerful character arc, a journey that he's on, and you care about him in a way that you never care about characters in Godzilla movies. Like, these are the best characters we've ever had in Godzilla movies. And like you're really focused in on kind of this trio, this guy and these people that he meets afterwards, and this child, and that's our center one. But all of the side characters also kind of have this history to them, and how the war affected them, or because how they were involved or weren't involved. And we're talking about the characters, and this is a Godzilla movie. Here, like, that's what this movie just does so well. You care about them. That's the thing you want to talk about. And their perspective on war, not even about Godzilla destroying everything and nuclear breath and these blasts and all of that stuff in the movie. And that's where Hollywood needs to take note. Like, pay attention. They delivered a Godzilla movie where you care more about the characters than you do about Godzilla. And we'll get to Godzilla in just a minute. So there's actual characterizations. And each character provides a different perspective on this response to war. There's multiple moments in this movie with this little 2-year-old child that has to like cry. My wife literally turned to me like, are they, and maybe they did, but like, they're like, are they hurting this child to get this child to be such tragic moments? And maybe that's what, I don't know, because the child is so, like just crying and letting it go. And there's so many moments of just raw emotion in this film because they anchor it in reality. They anchor it in post-World War II restoration and the real feelings that people had. And the scenario just happens to be Godzilla. Let's talk about Godzilla. Now, in the Hollywood movies, they always try and make Godzilla like an anti-hero or misunderstood or like all these sorts of deals. And this movie makes Godzilla a terrifying monster. It's not trying to humanize Godzilla or give him a noble cause. Like, it doesn't do that. It's this beast of destruction that causes a nation to have to pull together. And because of that, every time you see Godzilla, you are terrified. Every time Godzilla shows up, it's scary because you know something bad is going to happen. From the beginning of the movie, first shows up, it's gut-wrenching, both in the size of the destruction that happens, but its toll it takes on our lead character. And then as Godzilla reemerges, it's just this unstoppable force that raw force can't defeat. And you get the nuclear blast, that there's multiple of them. And when they happen, you're like, oh, it's going down. And when it does, you're horrified. You go from the fun of the destruction to immediately the horror of the destruction every time that it's used. And when you move into the third act, every time you see Godzilla charging up, you feel afraid for what is about to happen. And actual tension, edge of your seat. Like we're watching them multiple times. My wife goes, "Oh no!" Like grabs me, like as you see what's about to happen, because they actually make you care once again about the characters, about the consequences to the nation And Godzilla is a true threat, a force of destruction. And you feel it while watching the movie. So when he does things, you care. When there's victories against him, you care. And that's what a movie's supposed to do. But like if you're going in wanting to root for Godzilla, wrong movie. That's not the movie that this is. So for me, as normie Godzilla fan, a guy that I don't have a deep knowledge of the lore. I haven't watched most of the 30 plus Godzilla films that have been released. I just thought it was great. Like, this is what you can do with a big, I don't know, blockbuster type film that's about spectacle and destruction, but it's about characters too that you care about. And it's exploring real world tragic events and how it affected people through underwater dinosaur creature with nuclear. Like, that they pulled that off and it feels earned. It's so cool what they were able to do with this movie. And the more I talk about it, the more excited I am. But there's a couple more things we got to talk about here. Let's move on to the mixed aspects of the film. Now, as I go into this isn't something good or bad. This is just something you need to know going into the movie. This was not a negative for me. This is not what you would describe as a fun Godzilla film. There's destruction, there's the action that you want, but it's an emotionally heavy movie. If you just want a fun roller coaster ride, if you're like, yeah, I loved Godzilla vs. Kong. Oh, you say this one's great? I'd love to check it out. These are polar opposite sides of the Godzilla franchise, where one is WWF, World Professional Wrestling, whatever the letters are right now. Professional wrestling with Godzilla and Kong and Mechagodzilla. This is a serious movie about survivor's guilt is really what it's about. And a nation reclaiming its identity and trying to be proud of themselves again. They're different. Like, so go in knowing this is a serious, dramatic Godzilla movie. You just need to know that. So some people, like, if you just want fun, this is not the Godzilla movie for you. Probably wait until, April, when the next Godzilla vs. Kong movie comes out. From there, let's move on to the bad. Now, I love this movie, so there's not going to be a whole lot here. First one, it telegraphs some stuff in the third act pretty far in advance. Like, you can figure out what's going to happen during our final battle pretty easily. And it's still highly effective. It works. It has the emotional payoff. And when you say it's telegraphed, that also means it's set up properly. It feels earned. The pieces were put in place. But in setting up the pieces, you also will be able to guess the outcome of some of these things. Other one on here, this is super petty. I just don't like the eyes. I don't like, generally speaking, don't like the eyes that they give Godzilla in the Japanese, the Toho Godzilla films. Doesn't matter too much. I just don't like the eyes, and it did stand out to me. That's it. Otherwise, I loved this film. It was so far exceeded whatever expectations I had. I didn't really have expectations, but it blew them out of the water. This is what you can do with a big spectacle film. They can be about real things. They can be about characters. Other thing to say in here, they made it for $15 million. Hollywood, take note. They did this movie for $15 million, and it's better than your blockbusters. You can make a movie that works with spectacle and everything, and you don't need to spend $300 million. Please watch. Please pay attention. Please learn Hollywood and make adjustments with what you're doing. But this is my favorite Godzilla movie that I've ever seen. One of my favorite movies of the year. Overall, it's an A on the entertainment scale, a 9 out of 10. And go see this movie. But be aware, it's not what you would describe as a fun Taco Bell movie or anything like that. This is a serious Godzilla film, and it is great. I couldn't believe how good it was. Check out my Monsterverse ranking right over there. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.